RP show continues. We do have some soccer news that has hit the wire. Canada's men's soccer team has moved up 2 places to number 41 in the final FIFA rankings before next month's World Cup. The top 5 is unchanged, with Brazil ranked first ahead of number 2 Belgium. Canada's first opponent in Qatar. Argentina is third, followed by France and England. Earl Cochrane is the Secretary General of Canada Soccer, and he joins us today. And Earl, I appreciate the time, man. For us, I feel like this World Cup has snuck up a little bit. Like, here it is, but I'm sure it has not for you. What's it been like since qualifying?
No, it snuck up a little bit too. I think the challenge of a Winter World Cup, having approximately kind of 6-7 months since we qualified to prepare for Doha on the ground. It's been equal parts exhilarating and equal parts challenging.
I'm sure, but I'm sure you're on track and ready to do us proud. What has been Soccer Canada been up to since qualifying? What are, specifically? You got some friendlies going on, and now you're getting ready for game action.
Yeah, we actually just last week we had a team in Doha, just getting preparations done for what it's going to mean for us on the ground. Just putting the finishing touches on what our footprint in Doha is going to be, what that's going to mean for Canadians in Qatar, fans, team, friends, and family. We had worked relatively early on securing accommodations for the team and for those around them, the friends and family. We started building out quite early on this concept of a fan HQ, Canada House sort of idea in Doha, and we're well down the road with that. I expect we would probably have some information around that in a couple of weeks. And at the same time, we also recognize that we're going to have people across the country engaged and watching this group. Like they watch every single World Cup, but with a little bit more attention probably to this World Cup. And so we're building out a plan of how to bring Doha to Canada and just engage Canadians across the country on how they can support this journey that we're on domestically.
Yeah, well, with the multicultural nature of Canada, it'll be a big decision for a lot of Canadians. Whether they cheer for Canada or their heritage, which is good. They haven't had to think about that at 36 years? I'm sure they'll be cheering for Canada. They'd have to be, right?
I think so. 36 years is a long time. The World Cup has changed significantly in those 36 years too. Yeah, I envision there'll probably a lot of kind of split jerseys, German / Canadian, Portuguese / Canadian, Brazilian / Canadian.
By the way, you mentioned Qatar, so let's get it out of the bag now. It's not Qatar, it's Qatar. And our COO, Lee Genier, informed me of that. He's been there. When did you realize that it's pronounced Qatar? And are we going to get the whole country on board with a proper pronunciation before this thing starts?
I don't know if I've got that kind of sway to be able to convince the entire country that's the right pronunciation. It was actually our president who used it correctly. And I was just mimicking him at the time, and then realized it was actually the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, well, we'll find out if the broadcasters get it right. I'm sure that they will. I can't wait for it now. I'm a little on pins and needles the fact that Canada's going. I was kind of one of those guys that was like, show me first. I mean, I watched the games and the qualifiers, but I'm somewhat stunned that they got there. I mean, obviously, Earl, 36 years is a long time. What is special about this Canadian team that they punched their ticket? They weren't going to be denied.
No, it was a fantastic ride, but a long one, right? They had some significant pitfalls put in front of them. The qualification just to get to the final round, which again, we haven't been in 20 years, I think it is. So even that stage of getting to the final round was somewhat of an achievement. But in the middle of a pandemic, we were playing home games in the U.S. We played a handful of games in Florida, a couple of games in Chicago. And what people forget too is even when we got close to the end, the game in Edmonton the games in Edmonton were fantastic. Created some of those iconic moments with Sam Adekubi jumping into a snowbank. The run, even when we got into January and March, there were questions about whether we were going to be able to play the game in Hamilton around some of the restrictions that were in Ontario at the time. But we did, thankfully, got those points against the U.S., which didn't technically, I think, get us over the line at that point. But I think it was the moment where we realized we were on our way, and we just needed a point in that final window to get there. But nothing that was placed in front of these guys seemed like a large enough obstacle that they couldn't kind of either jump over, push out of the way, or run right through. It was a fantastic run, and I think we're all super proud of them.
For sure. Well, the not so positive side of it was what happened in Vancouver. Are we heading into the World Cup with labor peace between Canada Soccer and its players? Is there anything you can update us on with that?
Yeah, look, I appreciate that you have to ask the question. You wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't. I think we'll be heading into Doha with labor peace. We've made and we've said publicly that it's not really appropriate for us to have these sort of discussions in the public space. So we're having them and continue to have them. We're progressing. And in the end, we're going to get to an agreement, and we're going to end up with an agreement that is both, as we've always said publicly, both fair and equitable to both our national teams. And that's ultimately what we're looking to land.
So am I correct in learning that you're new in your role as Secretary General? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your duties are, if you don't mind, Earl.
Yeah, so I officially I've been in the position for 3 months, I believe now. When we had some departures later in 2021, I stepped into the role in a sort of acting position from January on. I come to this association with a sort of varied background, really. I played the game, played professionally in Asia for a couple of years, worked in Major League Soccer, both in the U.S., in Washington and in Toronto. Managed our national teams for a brief moment. So I have a deep sort of relationship with the pro game here, with the grassroots game, but even the global game. I've been involved in various aspects with both FIFA and CONCACAF in a number of spaces. So it's my role now to be the operational head of the organization, whether that's with our national teams program, our membership structure, our own operations internally. That's my role today.
It's a big role, but obviously you know your way around the pitch in this global game. So let me ask you this. Aside from winning it all, what are your expectations in Qatar for Canada?
I think our expectations are, and it's kind of similar out of the games that we saw just recently in Austria and in Slovakia. We are not going to be there to make up numbers, right? We are going to be a significant challenge to anyone that we step in front of. I think back to those games just a couple of weeks ago, and just as a fan and as a Canadian, it was a lot of fun to see us go toe to toe with world class opponents. To be honest, Uruguay is maybe the best opponent we've played in some time, maybe 4 or 5 years. And so I imagine that experience in going through those 2 games, even just the simple process of going through a cadence that we're going to find in Doha, will serve us well. I think we are going to see a very exciting, a very young, energetic team that, quite frankly, no one really wants to play. And the even more exciting part to all of this is the fact that we're going to see it all again in 3.5 years here domestically, and if you look at the makeup of this team, they could be around for even another cycle as we go through to 2030. So this is an exciting time to be a fan of the sport.
Well, yeah, it's a special group. They've shocked the world so far, so might as well finish the job, right? So we just finished the 50-year anniversary of the 72 Summit Series. I watched the 87 Canada Cup documentary this weekend. I got swept up in it. I think this will be this generation of kids, but for soccer. I think it's amazing. So, Earl, if I don't talk to you again before, congrats getting this far. Good luck with it, and I appreciate the time today, man.
Anytime. And you're Florida, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you based out of Florida? I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. That you, your friends, your family.
Oh, yeah.
Ian didn't treat you too badly.
I had about 5 branches to pick up off the lawn. That's about it. It cut north of here. It was just a bad storm for us. So we're down here in Boca Raton. So thank you for asking. But yeah, everything was good here for now. Thank you. I appreciate it, Earl. Thanks a lot. The Secretary General of Canada Soccer joining us, Earl Cochrane, in advance of the World Cup.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching the RP Show on YouTube. And don't forget, we're live daily on YouTube from noon to 2 Eastern. If you like what you see, hit subscribe. And if you like the program, check around for other segments of the Rod Pedersen Show here on YouTube.